Good afternoon, my friends. This is Paul, and today I'm going to be reviewing to you A Short Hike for the Nintendo Switch. This was announced actually yesterday at the time of this recording in an Indie World Showcase presentation, and since I really love games that have exploration, big open worlds, and I also am a huge sucker for hiking, this was one of the few games in that show, besides Evergate, that I actually wanted to pick up as soon as I could. And I finished it in one sitting because I loved it so much. Now, it's my turn to tell you about it. This is the story of a young bird named Claire who is waiting for a phone call, and so, to help with her anxiety, she decides to climb to the top of a mountain. That's literally all the story you're getting. You get a couple of hints about what the phone call is before you actually make it, but your goal ultimately is to climb the mountain. Apart from that, you're dumped into this humongous island that feels Breath of the Wild-y in scope. You don't have any goal markers or reminders or anything like that. You're asked to tackle this at your own pace, so there's not really an official order in how you play it. You know your goal, but how you get to the goal is completely up to you. Now, in order to properly complete the game, you need to have 7 golden feathers. With each golden feather, it gives you the ability to flap Claire's wings to increase her height. You could essentially think of it as a double jump when you get your first one, and it can turn into at least 13 jumps if you grab enough. But while 7 is the minimal number you need to beat the game, you can get more if you find that it's too challenging. Now, when I say challenging, it's more so of getting to the end is the challenge, but the actual game doesn't really have a difficulty, if that makes any sense. While there are certainly mini games and tasks that might be time-consuming, you can't exactly die. You can't really fail at this game. It's more so of getting to the end can be a bit of a process, but you get to decide when you think you're capable of it. So in other words, the game has a very relaxed, go-with-the-flow type of feeling that doesn't feel like you're getting punished or that anything is getting in the way. If you fail at a minigame, there's a quick retry option. If you get lost on the island, that's actually probably a good thing, because it means that you can explore more, and there's usually something around nearly every corner to make your journey more exciting. You could complete a new side quest, find some more money, and you can use that to keep adding new abilities to Claire's repertoire. At first, all she can do is jump and glide, but eventually she can get new tools such as the shovel to dig up marks that look suspiciously like the ones in Animal Crossing, where you find the fossils. You can also get a fishing rod to catch fish, which the fish silhouettes look a lot like the ones in Animal Crossing. I never thought I'd be making that many comparisons. A pair of running shoes so that Claire can walk faster than her default speed, and so on. The biggest upgrades are of course going to be the golden feathers to increase Claire's jumps. But I found that gliding and flapping her wings was one of the best parts of this game. While the art style is very simplistic and pixel-like, it had a great job of conveying depth, which is not typically something that I like to say when I play top-down adventures, especially most of the top-down Zelda games, such as Link's Awakening. However, I don't really know how to describe it, but somehow it works in this game, despite the fact that this is on the Switch and doesn't have stereoscopic 3D like a Link to the... I can't speak today. Like a Link Between Worlds had. I can always tell when Claire is going up an incline and increasing in height, although that might partially be due to the amazing soundtrack, which gets progressively more intense the closer Claire is to the top of the mountain, which has a Celeste feel of, you can do it! You can get further! You can push yourself! And it's an exhilarating feeling. I turned the music all the way up when I played the game the first time, and while playing it on a TV was a bit of an ear sore when I did this footage, as the music was really loud, and I had it only on 18 to put that into perspective. But it never quite got old. Even the tracks that repeated themselves, they didn't bother me as much as this normally would in a game, because I felt like the game was being a giant cheerleading experience. And overall, if there was a soundtrack of this game, that would have been a really cool reward. Speaking of rewards, there's a lot that you can do in a short hike. This game is roughly going to take you about 2 hours to beat the game, but in terms of completing, there's a lot of variety. There are mini games to play, especially the beach stickball minigame. That could be about as time consuming as the jump rope minigame in Super Mario Odyssey. It's a lot of fun and the controls are really simple. The characters are usually very clear about what you need to do to complete the side quests, and usually their hints are just vague enough where you don't feel like they're giving away the answer, but also clear enough where you know, okay, this is exactly what I need to do. Heck, some will even say, you don't look like you're prepared at the moment. You can challenge me anyway if you think you're all that, but I really think you should go and get some more equipment. So that's nice that the game sort of gives you an artificial challenge. And in that sense, it does kind of remind me of Breath of the Wild, because you get a speedrun clock after you beat the game. So the game rewards you for trying to find the ultimate path through this island. Now that is going to pretty much 100% depend on your memory, as there's no in-game map, and you really have to rely on actual trailblazing skills. You'll have to think, what does this landmark look like? What direction am I going in? And how am I going to navigate this island without feeling lost? And initially that was a little bit of a bummer, but I felt like it helped immerse me further into the world, because looking at a map too much would slow down the pace. That was actually one of the biggest negatives I had with my entire experience, is that equipping items was a little bit too slow and cumbersome, and I wish there was more of a quick equip option, where, I don't know, maybe if I had pressed left on the control pad, I would switch between the shovel and the bucket without having to pause the action. I really love how the only real HUD you get in the game is your display of golden feathers. But apart from that, there's no timer, there's no things to get in the way of experiencing the game in its full pixelated beauty. Now, what about people that wouldn't like a short hike? Well, I would say if you're looking for a long, drawn-out experience, this probably isn't the game for you. You're probably going to want something that actually has, a story apart from get to the top of the mountain, and you're also going to probably want something that's a lot more involved. However, for those people that really love the thrill of exploration, that don't have the budget to get a $60 game like Breath of the Wild or The Witcher 3, are going to find that this is probably the closest you're going to get from an indie standpoint, and also probably the best. This has been my favorite overworld to explore that wasn't made by a AAA Nintendo company. And I'm really hoping that this can be on the top 10 games of 2020 that I have played. I sort of got the impression that a lot of games that came out in 2020 were going to have COVID laziness signs, kind of like that weird time period between 2013 and 2016 when Nintendo's Wii U and 3DS games were so underwhelming. But this turned out to feel like any other game in the Nintendo's going through the good times feel. So, with the exception of the tedious item swapping and the initial learning curve of figuring out how to line up Claire's jumps, I don't really have any complaints about this. And so I'm confident in giving this a 20 out of 20. That seems like a very exaggerated score, and it probably seems a little bit better than some other major games this year, but honestly, even if the game does have flaws, they're the type that you just have to practice and get used to it, and then you'll find that the flaws will slowly go away. It's short enough where I feel like I could beat the game again in no time at all without feeling like I have to make a major time commitment or that I have to give up on a game that I'm currently playing. I can just pop it in, play it. You can even go back to your original save file and go and complete more of the side quests, as there are achievements to unlock to give you a concrete sense of progression. I personally don't like playing with achievements, but I'm really glad that that option is there for those people that are whining that the Xbox 360 achievement system hasn't still been officially implemented onto the Switch. So with that said, I give this my highest recommendation for those who like exploring big worlds, who don't mind the pixel art, and who appreciate having a very hands-off approach to the story and progression. Now that being said, if you're someone that doesn't like this kind of freedom and wishes for something a lot more structured and in-depth, then I think the score would be closer to something like a 16 out of 20. But the game still controls and sounds beautifully, and the world is always a joy to explore and do something new. So I think you're still going to have a good time, and I still think that even people who don't like exploring should give this a try, but hey, everyone has different opinions. I personally think that this is absolutely worth a buy, especially at the steal of a price of roughly $7 when it's on sale, which is amazing. Honestly, I wouldn't mind paying more like $10 or $20 for this if I had known I was going to have this wonderful of a time. So with that, thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section, especially if I might have missed something. And until the next time, keep the faith, stay epic, God bless, and maybe try some hiking more. During this rough time, people do need to exercise a little bit to avoid from going crazy. Bye-bye.